Greetings, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty, here at you again with another edition of this week's vlog. It is Mental Health Month. It is May, and beside autism on our vlog, we talk about mental health. But before I get into that today, I'd like to share a little bit about myself. My name is Dustin. As many know, I created Dustin's Dynasty many years ago, but I'm an autistic man who's middle-aged and has been living on his own for over about 7 years now, and has been working a part-time job for over 16 years. And we've been living this autism thing for most of my life. Like I had just learned not too long ago that I was diagnosed at 18 months and with the initial diagnosis. And we've been living life sometimes without supports and many times now with little support, but we're here and that's what matters. And we're talking about mental health because May is Mental Health Month. So it's important to discuss it, whether it does play a part in everybody's life. But for me as an autistic person, mental health is very important to me, just as much as physical health and autism itself, because it's how we function in life. It's what helps us function. And for some time before I had gotten my mental health in control the last few years, as followed through this journey, um, I wasn't certain about things. And now, there's just things that are a part of life that we have to endure, because they are part of what I bestow. They're the mental health challenges that come with autism, whether they're anxiety, bipolar disorder, they're things, and they need to be managed to have the best quality of life. And even though I've had setbacks the last 5 of the 7 years, of living independent, I now understand that it's more than ever important to always keep my mental health at the forefront and never make the destructive decisions that I once made years ago, because that's not the right thing to do. That's not how you solve problems. Yes, there are things that are hard to deal with. Weight gain is one of them. But, I'd rather, work at losing weight the right way or getting help in some way down the line that's healthy and appropriate than rather than, have to do the things that I did that was not healthy for my mental health that caused a spiral of sorts that was really, really bad. And I couldn't see it in myself until it was really, really bad. And I started to climb back about 3 years ago, and I started down that path again, and I had to bounce back better and be real about my mental health. I had to make it more of a forefront. I had to do the research, use the coping techniques, just learn how to live life, and we're still doing that little by little, and it's hard, along with life's challenges that have somewhat thrown a wrench in the path, but that's why things like medication matter, and I'm not going to harp too much on it, but I now see how much of a valuable tool they are to caring for my mental health and why it's important to take all my medications as prescribed and to work at living the best life I can, because those tools help me do that. And that could be one person's belief or another. But in my life, I see no other way. And it took me a long time to see that and see that, even though, the things like weight are the issue, we'll work at those when the time comes as I'm able and as I can comprehend those things and get through those challenges little by little in life and work towards those things. And if I don't, reach my targets and reach my goals as far as my weight loss is concerned, then I'll ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. And I think that's one of the biggest things, too, about mental health just as much as physical health. And maybe it's just because I'm a man, but it's hard to be honest about your mental health and say, okay, I need a break, or maybe, okay, I'm struggling, or maybe, okay, maybe I just need to talk to someone. And, for me, I think personally, um, for over 2 decades, I've been in outpatient therapy. Years before that, I was in something called wraparound, and I'm sure many who watch or listen to this can relate to what that is. But when I was in outpatient therapy since adulthood, and I've been truly blessed to have the same therapist. But I think for the longest time I didn't listen to what the therapist had told me. And it now I see the importance of doing that, following the treatment plan. And these were all things that I was asking people out in the community as part of my job and my work that I do. Are they setting the treatment plans up or setting goals for you? And here I am, and it's not until 2026 that I'm actually reading the goals, taking them to heart, and actually doing them because I know they're important and I know I need to do them, no matter how hard it can be. That's just life. If you want to see a change in something, and that can be your mental health or your mental stability, then you have to do the work. That is, keeping consistent and adhering on your medication. That's doing the things that help you calm down or keep you reassured. Those are the things that matter because they matter. And for me, it was a long time for me to be able to see that and understand that. And now, I'm working on these goals, and I'm putting the pieces together of what I need to do. And yeah, it's not fun, but my life's better than what it's ever been. And there's so many joys I could say about myself, and I see those joys more and more in life as life goes on. Um, it's just part of, God's plan, I guess. And, maybe finding the Lord and having a better relationship with Him, whether that's your thing or not, was a big thing for me too. And working to find that balance and that stability that I needed to have over the course of the past several years, in the right way, in the healthiest way. It's hard. Life is hard. There is no doubt life is hard, but if there's things that you can do to make life easier, and granted, it's not perfect in any way, then that's the life you have to lead. And if it's different than living in misery. And I think for so long in my life, I was living in misery, even though I didn't want to admit it. There was a part of me that put on a facade, like artistic masking, and I encourage anybody who's unfamiliar with that to look it up. But it is pretty much like putting a facade on yourself, and then when you get into the throes of your personal life, and for 30 some years I was living with my family, and I realized that it wasn't healthy, but I lived it, and I didn't have the confidence to move out on my own and be independent at first, even though, my therapist showed me that I was capable. And it was something that we talked about for 5 years before I did it. Granted, I had several setbacks the first 5 years, and, it took a while to get back on track, but we're in a good spot right now. And I think that's the best thing to figure out. And even as life's events has happened, and the course of life has changed over the past few years, I know that this is what it is for me, and I have to learn to make the best of it, live my best life as I can, and that stability, adherence, consistency matter. And because there is no turning back, and in anything that I do, whether that's work, whether that's, day services, there are expectations that need to be met. And taking care of my mental health in whatever way that is that needs to be done helps with making sure that I meet those expectations. I understand those expectations, and I learn how to manage life's challenges as they come down the pipe by coping as in the best way that I can, by the ways that have been taught to me, by the things I still research on my own and do. And, it's grateful to be in a place where I was able to spend time doing the research, putting the binders together, so to speak, and finding the ways of which I need to live my best life. Granted, it's not always perfect. Things are always happen in life. We make mistakes, we falter, we do things that aren't the nicest, and we're all human, and things just happen. Whether you like to hear that or not, and that's a hard thing for me to accept too, is that, we're human and things just happen. And we can't be perfect as humans. We don't have, we think we have to have everything go just right, just our way. And when something happens that may set us back, or it may cause a problem, or not even a problem, sometimes we as autistic people, just because of being autistic, see things as bigger than what they are. We magnify them, we over worry, we overthink them. And sometimes that's just a lot for us too, without seeing that things aren't really as bad as we see, and that we too are allowed to make mistakes as long as we put ourselves back on the right path of doing the right thing, and staying the course of what we need to do. It's not always easy. You know, there's always going to be something in our life, but it's about managing ourselves and making sure that we are always our best for when life throws whatever it does at us. And I think that's, the biggest thing. I mean, when you look at the co-occurrence of mental health and autism, you see that, like, we like things to be rigid. We like our routines. We like things just to go the way we want them. And I think not so much since the pandemic 6 years ago, but just, it has taught us that we have to learn to adapt to things. And sometimes things happen at the stop of a dime. And that's what my life has been over the past 2 years. And I've had to learn, that it's important to learn to adapt and be the best person we can be, whenever we're needed and when it's best for us. And there's things that help us do that. And, we have to learn what the challenges that come with those things that help us do that, by coping the best way we can, and by taking care of ourselves the best way we can. And, it's important, I think, for me too, to realize there's no shame in doing that, taking care of ourselves. That may mean more sleep on the weekend. When you're recovering from the day in and day out that living with autism is in the world that isn't always made for us. Just those sort of things, they matter, and they're part of our mental health, and there's no shame in them just as much, as anything else. It's realizing that I don't have to be on go 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 all the time. It's okay to relax, take time for things we enjoy, as long as we get what we need to get done in life in the way that we need to get them done, and take care of ourselves in the best way that we can. That's just what matters most, I guess. So, it is taking care of our mental health and being at the best that we can, and doing what is best for us, because not because we feel that we have to. It's because that we want to, and it matters not only to us as people who are maybe struggling in mental health or autism or both, but it's because those around us want us to be our best selves too, and that it matters, to us that we have to do what we have to do, even though we may see things differently, or maybe we have a flawed thought or two about it. But we know we're better, and we know we deserve to live our best life possible. Sometimes our life can put us in a down and out negative mindset, but I've done better at bouncing back from those things. And that has taken time to learn how to manage those challenges when they come, those thoughts, those ruminating, overthinking thoughts, and learning that I'm better than that, I'm more than that, And there's so much more to life to see and do than what there is. So with that being said, I want to be sure, thank you for liking this video. Be sure to give it a like if you haven't already. Be sure to follow me on my channel. Tap that notification bell if you want more settings. Leave a comment or a review if you like. Um, as always, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, Pinterest, and TikTok at Dustin's Dynasty. I'm on the web. That address is www.dustinsdynastyusa.com. And lastly, if you haven't heard all of those, everything's under Linktree. There's my different podcasting platforms, my different links, e-blast sign up, website, all that is under there, under Dustin's Dynasty, under Linktree. Again, I want to thank you for listening. Let's have a good rest of the weekend out there. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I would just spend some time with the ladies in my family this afternoon, and I was truly blessed to take the time to do that, as well as the men in my family. But ultimately, it's about mom tomorrow, and take time to show some love to your mom if you have one, and have the respect for her, and take care of her. And again, always, if regardless, let's have a good rest of the weekend. Take care of yourself. Stay safe out there. Remember, you matter, you are loved, and you are enough. Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye for now.